Hello. Mental health and wellness is an important topic, which is even more pronounced during the pandemic. My name is Josh Pulls, and I'm a school counselor at Appleton West High School. At Appleton West, part of our faculty and staff's professional development centers around creating a positive learning environment for students who struggle with mental wellness. We have also partnered with community resources to bring about positive mental wellness fairs and community events to educate our students and community to take a proactive approach to positive mental wellness. The pandemic presents challenges to coming together as a community to discuss these important issues, which is why we are proud to announce that we will be starting a virtual mental wellness web series in conjunction with our partners at Prevent Suicide Fox Cities and Catalpa Health. It is our sincere hope that our students, families, and communities find these series beneficial and that we can continue to empower our community to discuss how we can best partner with one another to improve mental wellness for our students and for everyone in our community. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will find these topics helpful and interesting. On behalf of Appleton West, Prevent Suicide Fox Cities, and Catalpa Health, thank you for engaging in these courageous conversations. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Amy Gunderson. I'm a therapist at Catalpa Health. I work primarily with all the way from young children to upper adolescents. I've been with Catalpa for 8 years, and today I'm coming to talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 and how it affects children and how we can help them build up their resilience. Just going to take a second to get my screen up for you. All right, before we even start talking about children, let's talk a little bit about how adults are impacted in a pandemic. First, one way is by having a financial impact on your life. This could be from a loss of a job or having to miss a significant amount of work as a result of being sick or taking care of someone who's sick, or even just having to be home because your children are home. This could be somebody's first time having to seek out additional supports for food, whether that be from family and friends or from the food pantry. People might notice a loss of their support system. Many people are trying to distance themselves from other people who may have been a support in the past. Maybe there are elderly grandparents that had been helping take care of kids, and now that's not really as much of an option. Fear and anxiety. I think as adults, we see the news and we hear a lot of the things that are being said, which has been said over the last 9 months. And I think it's really hard to decide what's true, what's not true. How do you know if you're making the right choices and how to be okay with that? Physical health problems is another thing that we see with a lot of adults who are dealing with COVID. This is coming about by being sick, physically sick, or by having an increased amount of stress. Stress reduces your immune system's ability to fight different things, and so that can really impact all of us as well. We also see an increase of the use of alcohol and other substances. This is particularly true for people who have previously had substance use struggles, or have an increased amount of stress, or even are out of work. Now imagine, so that was us talking about adults and the impact that it has on them. Now imagine that you were a kid. Maybe you're this little boy sitting on the stairs, thinking about and wondering about when he'll get to have his friends over, or if he'll get to have a birthday party. Or the girl in the yellow up on top. Maybe her parents are really strict about distancing and not spending time with other people. And her friends' parents aren't quite as strict. So she has a couple friends that are getting together for the weekend and she's not with them. And so there's this bit of jealousy, a bit of anger, disappointment, lots of different emotions. Then we have this little boy down in the bottom corner. He looks angry. A lot of children really have a difficult time expressing their frustrations and their feelings about what's going on. And that's a really big thing for little kids. It's hard enough to deal with your surroundings, but then to have things change so suddenly is a challenge. Maybe you're this girl with the glasses on, up late by yourself. Everybody else in the house is asleep, trying to finish up on some homework, and you're distracted. And you wonder if you'll ever be able to catch up. Just an overwhelming sense of anxiety and fear and what will happen. Or this girl in the black mask who's at work and sees people coming into her work. Some wear masks, some don't. Some are polite, some are rude about it. And here she is at work, even though she's not able to attend school. There are some things that we can really watch for and pay attention to when we are trying to figure out if a child is going through some really difficult times. There's stuff that's normative, but then there's also things that we want to pay attention to and help support them. The first way we see anxiety show up in kids is anger. There are many things that can trigger that fight or flight response, and one of them is just being disrupted in their day-to-day, having things not go the way that they would hope, or being really frustrated and having difficulty being able to communicate that. You also might see some difficulty sleeping. Sleep is something that we all are impacted with when we're anxious. So maybe it's that you have a hard time falling asleep, or maybe you wake up a lot at night, or maybe you just really can't fall asleep and you're awake often and you can't really slow your thoughts down. Then we have some defiance. Defiance comes out when a child isn't really able to communicate their feelings. It's often seen as a behavior problem, when in reality, we want to really try to pay attention to what is it that it's trying to tell you. And very often it is that the child is looking for some sense of control. Right now, none of us have control over a lot of things, and so that's important to consider. Chandeliering is when somebody that appears to be calm suddenly flies off the handle. Well, this is sort of true because at times we have people who will hold it in, right? So something happens and they're holding that frustration in, or they're anxious about their grandma being sick. And then all of a sudden it just takes one little thing to have them fly over the edge. And that really wasn't like that, just that one little thing did it. It was just the piling on, the piling on. And so this happens more with emotions about even the little things. Number 5 is a lack of focus. When people are stressed or anxious, we definitely see a lack of focus. This is true in all children, not children who just have attentional difficulties. This is true for adults as well, that it might be hard to focus on what you're doing because you're so thinking, your mind is wandering off to different things and different people. Avoidance. You might see kids avoid, you might see teenagers avoid things. In particular, I'm seeing a lot of teenagers avoiding doing their schoolwork. They feel like they won't catch up, and so they're just avoiding it, doing it all together. Negativity. You notice this when kids are more hopeless. They don't think that anything's going to be better. They're not able to see what's good about things that are going on around them. Everything's just very negative, and nothing much helps them switch it over to the positives. Over planning is another thing you might see. This, I would say, happens in a lot of anxious teenagers and even older children as well. You might see them really trying to say, okay, so what time are you dropping me off? When are you picking me up? What happens if I can't find you? You might see a teenager be like, okay, so I'm going to get this assignment done, and then I'm going to do the next one, and kind of more of that like overdoing it. So one thing that we want to talk about is the things that you have control over and the things that you can't. This has been particularly helpful to all people that I've shared it with: kids, adults, parents, teachers. So often in our lives, there are things we can control and things we can't. The things that are related to COVID that we cannot control is the world situation and how this spreads, or what other people are choosing to do or not do to take care of themselves. How our government makes rules is another one. Statistics and facts, we don't have control over that, or the laws. Things I do have control over, this is the area that you should really pay attention to and focus on and encourage people to stick in. So I have control over whether or not I wash my hands really well and practice good hygiene, whether I stay home or I'm out visiting friends, my thoughts and my actions, how I reach out for help and support to help others, my own self-care, the things that I consume. This one is really important, I think, in having conversations, particularly with teenagers. They have control over food, water, media, news. So they can make a choice that if this is too much, maybe I need to distance myself from this. And just like any of these things, you have to make good judgment based on your own family situation, weigh the benefits and the risks. And then in the middle is knowing that you're doing everything that you can and be at peace with that. Be able to say, okay, I don't know what the right decision is, but this is the decision I'm making that I feel like is the best for us. So when we think about feelings and emotions, when in our household and in our relationships and our communication with others, teenagers and kids are often the thermometer, and we really want to be, as adults, the thermostat. Very often a child will get upset or escalated and they might climb up the thermometer and we join them. Our voice is raised, we get so frustrated, we start bargaining with them to get them to do their work because they need to get on that next call. I need you to do this because there's some amount of responsibility that we have or how it'll be viewed for us. And in reality, our kids need us to set the temperature. They need us to say, okay, I'm going to be able to stay calm with this. I'm going to take the time to validate their experience. I'm going to try to help them come back down and calm back down before they need to get to work. Because meeting them and begging and pleading is only going to keep things going up and up. So really trying to set the tone in your household. And that may have to do with the things that you do. It may have to do with the amount of screen time you have outside of school, or the kind of news that you watch on TV, or the kind of TV shows. So when I say the words connection, what do you think of? What are some things that you imagine? Well, connection has to do with physical touch and hugs and how you are with one another. Nature. Many people are finding ways to connect in nature or feel very connected just when they are outside breathing that air. Maybe dinner time in your household is a time when you have more connection. Phone calls, you're able to connect with people that way. Playing games, sitting down, playing games, doing puzzles, spending time. Spirituality might be a way that people view connection. I like this definition, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Connection, the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from that relationship. So I want you to pause for a second and see what that means. To feel seen and heard and valued. That seems so simple. And I think it's something that we can still really very much do during this time of COVID. Our teens are very isolated right now. This is a time when they really want to be spending time with their friends and getting out and doing things. So really helping to validate that experience for them or their frustration is important. It's not our responsibility to fix everything. We can't just fix this. Nobody can fix this. So really trying to help them, like I said, feel validated, feel seen, heard, and valued. And when you can give and receive without judgment. So to have somebody be able to do that with you as well is important. To feel like you have people that you can talk to and say, this is what I'm going through. And to feel like they can take it on without having to fix it for you. So, what's the upside, right? We've talked about a lot of the struggles, but what are the things that have it be an upside? We're seeing people spending more time with family. They're in their houses. They're not getting out to do stuff. So you're spending more time together and what that looks like. More time in nature. Many people that I have been talking to, and even myself, we can't really go lots of places, right? And a lot of the experiences that we have are being out in nature. So getting out and enjoying that, going to some of the various local nature preserves, some of that is awesome. And to even be outside, breathing fresh air somehow makes you feel a little more connected. Sibling relationships. Now, I recognize this could go both ways, right? If your child and their sibling have a lot of conflict, you might be seeing an increase in conflict. But you also may have an increased opportunity in them to find things that they can do together and that they can do while getting along. Creativity. We're seeing people do lots of different things. We're seeing people do drive-by birthday parties. We're seeing lawn decorations. We're seeing people go out of their way to really make sure that people feel special and loved. The slower pace of life. Life is just moving a little bit at a different pace. There's not as many places to go. There's not as many activities going on. So things have slowed down a little. And I think that's one of the things that we need to take a pause and consider. Is this the kind of life we want to continue to lead? Or do we want to go back to that fast pace, going from place to place life? Being more intentional. People are very much more intentional with their time and what they're doing with that time. And when they go out, paying attention to the things that they're doing. And you're having to be more intentional when you're reaching out to people. So it's not just casually that you see somebody in the hallway and you're like, hey, how's it going? You might have to be more intentional and really reach out to somebody and ask them how they are. Opportunity for increased resilience and flexibility. One thing that I think that is unique to this, to being in a pandemic, is that we have the opportunity for kids to develop an increase in their resiliency and flexibility, for them to be able to go through something such as this at a very important time in their life and figure out how to adapt, figure out what's important to them, and be able to be okay. And also flexibility. Okay, so I can't do this the same way I've always done it. I need to think about some different ways to do it. I think recognizing this for kids is really important. I also think it's something that parents need to work to show and demonstrate as well. And we have to purposefully look for it. We're not going to find the blessings. We're not going to find the good stuff if we're not intentionally looking for the things to be grateful for. This is hard. This is hard for everybody. And it's important that we really try to recognize that it can be both hard and something that we're going to make it through okay. I have attached a few resources. The National Child Traumatic Stress Network is one that I very much use. It is one that has lots of sheets, lots of different things that we can share with others. We also have the Sesame Street communities, which is a great place for some resources, especially for young children. So when I think about the things that I really want parents to know and to pay attention to, and what's really important in helping your child build up resiliency, is that this is hard. And honestly, as a therapist, my main goal right now is to make sure kids are okay. So take a pause. Maybe don't focus on the math homework. Maybe just see how they are as a kid. Very often, as a therapist, I'm one of the very few people that kids talk to in a day that isn't placing some sort of demand on them. So take the time with your kids to pause and to recognize that, okay, what do they need from me? Not what's my responsibility, but what do they need from me? Not what I think they need. What do they think they need? A lot of these kids can tell you. They need to be recognized for their efforts. I can tell you that working in front of a computer all day long is difficult. And for teenagers and kids who are learning and their brains are developing, that makes it hard. They're not seeing the benefits of school for some kids because social parts of that is a huge deal. So, like I said, if I could have you take anything away, it would be that make sure kids are okay. Do your part, ask them how they are, give them feedback as needed, look them in the eye, and just take time. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out via Catalpa Health. Our phone number is 920-750-7000. Thank you for taking the time to listen. We have learned a lot over the last 9 months, and I'm sure that we will continue to learn more. Thank you so much for your time.